Hi, my name is Elizabeth and this is my channel RoughDraftDIY, and if this is the first of my videos you're seeing, I'll tell you a little bit about my channel. I have a series of how-to videos in which I make a variety of useful projects out of repurposed and inexpensive materials. Along the way I introduce different tools and supplies that you might think only a professional could use, but I found that DIY is all about just jumping in and giving it a try, and I want to show you what all I've learned as I go. In this video, I'll show you how to make a serving tower from a wooden board, simple hardware, and burlap. And the unique thing about this design is that it is easily collapsible for storage, which I'll show you later. And also the wooden pieces can be interchangeable for different shapes and color schemes for various holidays. I had a Valentine's party at my house this month, and so the first theme that I made was red and pink hearts. First, I'll show you how to cut out the heart shapes using a jigsaw and a paddle drill bit. Then, what non-toxic supplies to paint a serving platter with. And finally, how to cleverly mask the hardware. So let's get started. First of all, you're going to need a metal rod that's threaded like a screw, 8 nuts that fit the rod, 3 small washers, 3 large washers, burlap, straight pins, a needle and thread, and a 1 by 12 by 48 inch wooden board. Most of my other projects are made from reclaimed material, but I bought a new board for this project because I needed one that was a foot wide and, since I'll be cutting 4 hearts from it, 4 feet long. That way my base piece will be more or less 1 square foot and can act as a sturdy foundation. I drew the hearts out to be as round as possible while still keeping a heart shape. You don't have to make exact measurements, but the biggest heart is about 1 square foot, the next one is about 10 square inches, then 8 square inches, and the smallest one is 6. Like I said before, you can draw and cut out any shape you want, like circles for pumpkins at Halloween, or squares for gift boxes at Christmas time or for a birthday party. Whatever shape you use, just make sure the width is more or less even with the length, so one side doesn't end up heavier than the other. To cut out the hearts, I'm using a jigsaw. I used this tool in my last video that showed you how to make a flower box from fencing, but I didn't give much explanation on how to use this tool. A jigsaw is great for making cuts freehand because the blade is very thin and you can guide it where you'd like. It's particularly good for round or curved cuts, hence how jigsaw puzzles got their name. Several different blades can fit in a jigsaw, and I'm going to use the thinnest one because it's best for curved cuts. When cutting with a jigsaw, you should clamp down both ends of the wood to avoid it bouncing from the saw's vibrations. You also have to push down pretty hard on the saw to keep it steady. Start the saw before it's touching the wood and ease it into the board and along your line. It's really important to continue pushing down while still easing the saw forward and cutting along the line. Don't let the saw bounce around or this could snap your blade. There's a notch to guide you at the front center that indicates where the blade is cutting. And when you're done cutting, allow the blade to completely stop before pulling it out. Make the cleanest cut possible. They won't all be perfect, and we can correct them later with the sander. Now I'm going to use a paddle drill bit to drill a hole through the middle of each piece. My central rod is a 1/2 inch thick, so I'll use a 1/2 inch drill bit. Then on the bottom of the largest heart, I'm going to use a larger paddle drill bit to make a space just big enough for a nut to fit in. This will be for final assembly. Be careful not to drill all the way through, just enough so the nut fits flush with the bottom of the board. Next, I'm going to sand all the pieces down, round out the corners, and correct any jagged edges made with the jigsaw. Now I'm going to add some color. I'm using milk paint because it's non-toxic and made from natural materials. Since this will be a serving tray, it's important to avoid paints with toxic ingredients like enamel. Milk paint is a very unique medium. It comes in powdered form and you add warm water to make the paint. The ratio that worked for me was about 1.5 parts water to 1 part milk paint. Then you have to stir it for a good 5 minutes until most of the powder is dissolved. I didn't realize how long 5 minutes was until I had to stir paint the whole time. But it's well worth the effort. What you end up with is a watery substance that goes on smoothly and dries to give the surface a variety of color intensity and dimension.
It's hard to get a solid block color with milk paint, so if this is what you're looking for, this is not the medium for you. But if you're open to the unexpected, milk paint can really surprise you with the appearance of texture and dimension. And 2 coats should be sufficient for these hearts. I'm going to seal and protect the paint with shellac, also a non-toxic material made naturally. It's very easy to work with, and it's important to continuously stir, not shake, the can while in use. 3 coats did the trick, allowing dry time between each coat, and at the end, clean your brushes with acetone instead of water. Now it's time for final assembly. With 2 nuts already on the rod, I fit the biggest heart into the rod and secured it with the base nut. Then 1 nut on top of the heart. The next nut holds the 10-inch heart on top of the 2 washers. Small washer first, then bigger one. The small washer is there to reinforce the bigger washer because the bigger one's hole was almost just as wide as the nut was round. Then the 10-inch heart goes on, followed by another nut. Then the next nut, a small washer, a big washer, the 8-inch heart, and then the same order for the 6-inch heart. All the pieces are assembled, but some adjustments might need to be made to make layers equidistant. This rod is a bit too long for this cookie stand, and I knew it would be, but I didn't want to cut it down until I was sure how high I wanted it to stand. Now that I've got it assembled the way I want, I'll cut the rod down with my Dremel tool. And I'll actually end up with a second rod I can use for something else. Now to mask the unsightly hardware. I need a material that is cheap, semi-permanent, but still looks great, and burlap does the trick. Not only is it inexpensive, but it's super easy to manipulate, especially with an iron. So I'm going to cut 3 pieces off the 6-inch wide roll, and each piece is a couple inches longer than the spaces between the hearts. Then I ironed down the raw edges about 1 inch, so now the burlap piece is just as long as the space between the hearts. I wrap the burlap around the hardware, ironed edges facing up and down, and I secure it in the back with several straight pins. You wouldn't think a technique this quick and easy would look this good, but it gets better. To mask the very top nut, I decided to make a little rosette out of burlap. For this, you'll need a couple of long strips of burlap, ironed in half, about 2 inches thick. Just start a curl and wrap the first piece around itself and secure it with a few stitches. Place it on the top nut and wrap the second piece around a little farther down and stitch it into place. Now adjust the layers so they look flower-like and use pins to hold it in place if you need to. And you're ready to serve. Just as I said before, this is easily collapsible for storage or interchanging themed trays. Just take it apart and tuck it away.
Thanks for watching. Please like, share, comment, and hit that subscribe button. You can also check out my Etsy store at RoughDraftDIY.etsy.com. And if you'd like to follow my day-to-day projects, you can check them out on Instagram at RoughDraftDIY. Thanks again for watching, and I'll have another video out next month.